The Buffalo Bills walked into their own stadium dressed in all white, ready to dominate, ready to show why they were undefeated. But by the end of the night, that whiteout turned into a wipeout. A 23-20 loss to the Patriots at home, in front of their own crowd, on a night meant to intimidate the opponent. Well, that just stings. And no, this wasn't about one or two mistakes. This was about a whole collection of them. This was about a team that looked unprepared, unfocused, and simply got outplayed by a group of guys who wanted it more. From the very first drive, something just felt off. The energy, the tempo, even the body language, it didn't scream urgency or confidence. Instead, it looked like a team expecting to win simply by showing up. But that's not how it works in the NFL. And it definitely doesn't work when you give the ball away not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 turnovers in a game like this. You're lucky if you're even in it at the end. Let's call it like it is. The Bills played sloppy, mistake-filled football. And that's not just on the players. That's on the coaching staff, too. Because when you come out with a jet sweep to a tight end who has never taken a handoff before, you're asking for disaster. And that's exactly what they got. Fumbles, bad decisions, and a playbook that looked more like a puzzle than a plan. Joe Brady got way too cute with his calls. There was no rhythm, no consistency, and definitely no identity to this offense. The Bills didn't just lose this game, they handed it over. And then there's Josh Allen. He didn't play a horrific game, but he sure didn't play like the MVP caliber quarterback we've seen in the past. He looked frustrated. He looked like a guy who realized no one was getting open, so he tried to force things that weren't there. One moment he's scrambling for his life. The next he's throwing a pick into coverage that had no chance. You could almost hear him say, "Fine, I'll do it myself," every time he tucked the ball and ran. And honestly, it looked like he had to. But here's the real kicker, Drake May. The rookie quarterback for New England stepped into one of the toughest road environments in football, and he didn't flinch. He played clean, composed, and executed when it mattered most. No turnovers, no dumb decisions, just solid, efficient quarterback play. And in the biggest moments, he was better than Josh Allen. That's not an overreaction. That's a fact. Tonight, Drake May was the better quarterback on the field, and that should have every Bills fan waking up on Monday morning with a pit in their stomach. And if that wasn't enough, the guy who torched Buffalo all night was none other than Stefon Diggs. Yes, that's Stefon Diggs. The guy who used to wear Bills blue. The guy who was supposed to be the missing piece to Josh Allen's Super Bowl puzzle. Now, he's the one dancing in the end zone for the other team. Diggs didn't just have a good game. He dominated. He looked like a man possessed. Every time May needed a big play, Diggs delivered. Whether it was a contested catch, a sideline toe tap, or a clutch third down grab, he was that guy. And Buffalo had no answer for him. None. And let's talk about the wide receivers in Buffalo. What happened? Where were they? Outside of Keon Coleman, who made 1 or 2 really impressive plays, there was almost nothing to be proud of. The Patriots came out in man coverage, a strategy most teams avoid against Josh Allen because it usually backfires. But this time, it worked like a charm. The Bills' receivers just couldn't get separation. Nobody could beat their man. When you add it all up, the receiving core outside of Coleman and Kincaid gave Allen basically nothing. And if you're not getting production from your weapons, the whole system breaks down. That's exactly what we saw. Dalton Kincaid was the one bright spot. Career game. Over 100 receiving yards. He was the only one who consistently won his matchups. You could see Josh Allen look his way more often because, quite frankly, he had no one else. But when your tight end is your most dynamic threat in the passing game, that's a problem. And then there were the penalties. 11 flags. 11. That's not just discipline, that's lack of focus. That's poor preparation. False starts, holdings, unnecessary roughness. It was all there. Mental mistakes piled on top of physical ones. Every time it felt like the Bills had a chance to get back into the game, they'd shoot themselves in the foot. Whether it was lining up wrong, taking dumb penalties on key downs, or simply failing to execute, it was a masterclass in how to lose a football game. Even the defense, which had been solid in past weeks, couldn't hold the line when it mattered. Sure, there were flashes. Shaq Thompson had a nice showing, and Greg Rousseau got home a couple times. But when the Patriots needed to march down the field and win the game, they did it. And they did it with ease. Drake may stood tall in the pocket, found his guy, and delivered. And again, it was usually Diggs doing the damage. You can't help but wonder how different this game looks if Buffalo had a true number one receiver. Someone they could rely on in those tight man-to-man moments. Because everybody eats sounds great until you realize nobody's getting full. Right now, the Bills are starving for a difference maker at wide receiver. The kind of guy who demands double coverage. The kind of guy who breaks the defense before the snap. Right now, they don't have that. And it's starting to show. And when you add all of this up, the turnovers, the sloppy play, the uninspired coaching, the lack of offensive weapons, the poor execution on defense, you get what we saw on Sunday night. A team that looked like it thought it could cruise to a win, only to get punched in the mouth by a hungrier, sharper, better prepared opponent. That's the truth. The Bills are still a good football team. They're still capable of winning double-digit games. But this loss? This was a warning shot, a reality check. Because right now, there's a race in the AFC East. The Patriots are for real, and they proved it on the Bills' home turf. And now Buffalo has to regroup, refocus, and fix the things that went horribly wrong. Because nights like this, they don't just go away unless you make serious changes. If there's one thing that separates contenders from pretenders in the NFL, it's how a team responds to adversity. And right now, the Bills have some serious questions to answer. The loss to New England wasn't just about one bad night. It exposed issues that have been bubbling beneath the surface for weeks. And even though they were able to escape with wins against weaker opponents earlier this season, that same sloppy brand of football finally caught up to them. It starts with coaching. Joe Brady had his worst game of the season as the offensive coordinator. This was the kind of performance that makes you wonder if the staff really understood what New England wanted to do on defense. Brady got too clever for his own good, calling a flea flicker right after a turnover, dialing up a jet sweep to Dawson Knox of all people, and inexplicably pulling James Cook off the field in key moments. The offense never found a rhythm because it was never given a chance to settle. It felt like every drive was a different experiment instead of leaning into what has worked for this group all year. And speaking of James Cook, where was he? 13 carries in a game that was never out of reach. That's just not enough. Cook is one of the few explosive weapons on this roster, a guy who's constantly one broken tackle away from a house call. He should have been fed the ball over and over until the defense proved they could stop him. Instead, he was sidelined for long stretches in favor of Ray Davis, who, let's be honest, doesn't bring the same juice. In a tight, physical game like this, your best players need to be on the field. Cook wasn't, and it cost them. Josh Allen also took a beating out there. Physically, emotionally, mentally, he looked worn down. From the start, he was under pressure, and by the second half, you could tell he felt like he had to do it all himself. And yeah, he still made some ridiculous throws, like the touchdown dart to Keon Coleman. But when your quarterback is constantly having to improvise and carry the entire offense on his back, something's gone wrong in your design. The turnovers were a direct result of that pressure. A forced throw into tight coverage here, a botched handoff there. It all comes back to a quarterback who's being asked to do too much without enough help. And what about the wide receivers? The only player who showed up was Keon Coleman, and even that came in flashes. Curtis Samuel had a couple of moments, but nothing consistent. The rest of the group might as well have stayed on the bench. They couldn't create separation. They didn't win on the outside. In a game where the Patriots played heavy man coverage and dared the Bills receivers to beat them one-on-one, they got absolutely dominated. And it's not the first time that's happened this season. That's why the departure of Stefon Diggs looms so large. Say what you want about his attitude, his personality, his drama, but when it came time to make a play, he was there. And now that he's doing that for the Patriots, that's the nightmare scenario. Watching Diggs torch your secondary while your own receiving core can't even get open, that's the kind of thing that shakes a team's confidence. Because it's one thing to lose a weapon. It's another to watch him dismantle your defense in front of a sold-out home crowd. And what a performance it was. Diggs didn't just play well, he played like a man possessed. Every time he touched the ball, it felt like he was making a statement. He embraced the boos. He loved being the villain. And he backed it up with catch after catch, route after route, shrugging off defenders like they weren't even there. Whether it was Trey White or Christian Benford or any safety they tried to send his way, it didn't matter. He won every battle. And most importantly, he gave Drake May a security blanket all night long. Because make no mistake, May played out of his mind. This wasn't just a rookie managing the game. This was a quarterback executing with confidence and poise, delivering in big moments and never once looking rattled. He made throws on the run, converted huge third downs, and led the game-winning drive like a seasoned veteran. If you watched that game without knowing who the rookie was, you'd assume it was Allen. That's how calm and composed May looked. And that has to be terrifying for the rest of the division. Because now New England has something they haven't had in years, a real quarterback. But the Bills didn't just lose because of Diggs and May. They lost because of themselves. 11 penalties, 3 turnovers, blown coverages, missed tackles, miscommunication all over the field. It looked like a team that wasn't ready for prime time. And for a squad with Super Bowl expectations, that's unacceptable. Sean McDermott said it himself. They played the game the Patriots wanted them to play. That's about as damning a statement as you can get. It means they weren't in control. It means they weren't dictating tempo or execution. They were reacting. And when you start reacting in this league, you lose. Defensively, it wasn't all bad. Greg Rousseau had a solid outing. Shaq Thompson made some big plays. A.J. Epineza played with fire. But none of it mattered when the game was on the line. New England marched down the field in the closing minutes and won it. They didn't flinch. They didn't blink. And the Bills' defense had no answers. The lack of pass rush in key moments was glaring. The cornerback depth, again, looked like a major weakness. And those are the same issues that have haunted this team before, especially in the postseason. Sooner or later, those flaws always get exposed. And that's what makes this loss feel bigger than just a blip on the schedule. It exposed the same cracks that were there last year. The same cracks that have kept this team from reaching the Super Bowl. The lack of a second corner. The inconsistent pass rush. The inability to line up correctly and avoid dumb penalties. The overly complex offensive play calling that tries to outsmart instead of overpower. And now, you throw in a thin receiving core with no true alpha? That's a dangerous combination. The Bills can still right the ship. They've got the talent. They've got the quarterback. They've got the defense to make plays. But if they don't clean this up fast, they're going to find themselves looking up at the standings instead of leading the division. The AFC East just got tighter. The margin for error just got smaller. And Buffalo, once again, has to prove it can be more than just hype and highlight reels. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL sent shockwaves through the sports world yesterday with a bombshell announcement. The much-anticipated matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots has officially been canceled. Fans were already bracing for a heated rivalry showdown. But the league's statement hints at something far more scandalous than a simple scheduling conflict. According to insiders, newly surfaced footage appears to confirm suspicions of foul play, sparking a frenzy across social media and fan forums alike. The controversy stems from alleged irregularities during previous games involving both teams. Whispers of biased refereeing, questionable calls, and even potential manipulation of outcomes have been circulating for weeks, but until now, concrete evidence was elusive. The new images, as the NFL phrased it cautiously, seem to provide undeniable proof that at least one side may have been on the wrong end of unfair practices. While the league has not explicitly accused anyone of wrongdoing, sources close to the investigation suggest the footage shows instances that could alter the integrity of the game itself. Reaction from fans has been immediate and intense. Bills supporters flooded online platforms with outrage, claiming the Patriots have long benefited from favorable decisions, while Patriots fans argue that the Bills are attempting to create a narrative to explain away their recent losses. Sports commentators are calling it the scandal the NFL didn't see coming, pointing out that the timing, right before a critical clash in the standings, makes the situation even more combustible. Betting markets, of course, are in chaos, with wagers on the game now essentially void. The league's official statement promised a thorough investigation, but provided little clarity about when the game might be rescheduled, if at all. Rumors now swirl that the NFL could be considering penalties, fines, or even stricter officiating protocols for the remainder of the season. Behind the scenes, team executives are said to be in heated discussions, trying to manage public relations nightmares while preparing for upcoming matchups that now carry even higher stakes. Whether this turns into a full-blown scandal or simply an unforgettable hiccup in the schedule, one thing is clear. The Bills-Patriots rivalry will never be viewed the same way again. Fans will be watching closely, not just for touchdowns, but for every subtle glance from officials, every controversial call, and every whisper that might hint at who is truly playing fair in the NFL. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.